हेलो फ्रेंड्स, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। कैसे हैं आप लोग? उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सभी खैरियत से होंगे गाइस। तो आप सभी का वेलकम है फिर से आपके अपने स्पिरिचुअल रिएक्शन चैनल पर। और आज हम फिर से आ चुके हैं आप सभी के सामने बहुत ही ख़ास वीडियो लेके। और कमेंट आई थी कि आप इस वीडियो पे रिएक्शन दें, तो इस वीडियो का टाइटल है 7 फ्यूचर टेक्नोलॉजीज़ इन द कुरान दैट शॉक साइंटिस्ट। सो गाइस, आज हम इस वीडियो पे रिएक्शन देंगे और जानेंगे कि ऐसी कौन सी 7 तकनीक है जो कि कुरान में है और साइंटिस्ट को एकदम से पूरी तरह से चौंका देने वाली बातें कौन सी हैं गाइस, हम सभी जानेंगे। तो चलिए अब हम वीडियो को स्टार्ट करते हैं, उसके बाद में हम इस बारे में बात करेंगे। तो गाइस आप भी वीडियो पे लास्ट तक ज़रूर बने रहिएगा। तो चलिए बिना टाइम वेस्ट किए वीडियो को स्टार्ट करते हैं और आप भी अपना प्यार और साथ लास्ट तक बनाए रखिएगा गाइस।
Only a century ago, video calls could not even be imagined. But what if I told you that the Quran hinted at this technology 1400 years ago? And not only that, carrying people from one continent to another by airplanes, curing blindness, and many other technological advancements. The Quran is a book that contains many secrets. It is full of messages and signs that are hidden in a subtle way for every era. So far, we have witnessed many of its scientific miracles. From the expansion of the universe to the stages of embryological development, from the darkness of the deep seas to the layers of the atmosphere. Many scientific facts were pointed out in the Quran centuries before they were discovered. But what if there's even more? What if we have only scratched the surface and there's still so much left to uncover? What if even clues to future technologies are hidden inside its verses? If you're ready, let's explore them one by one. In Surah Al-An'am, we see the following verse. وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. Meaning, not even a leaf falls without His knowledge. And there's no grain in the dark layers of the earth or anything fresh or dry that is not recorded in a clear book. So, according to this ayah, everything is in the Quran. But not in full detail or by name. Instead, through signs, summaries, and fundamental principles. Famous Islamic scholar Bediüzzaman says that some of these discoveries are hidden in the stories of the prophets and their miracles. Indeed, Allah has informed us about some of them through their stories. He made humanity imagine the peak of technological advancements and hinted that similar inventions would one day be made. Now, we're going to look at 7 miracles of the prophets mentioned in the Quran and the signs that are hidden within them. As we get closer to the final ones, these signs will surprise you even more. In Surah An-Naml, verses 38 to 40, a truly fascinating event is described. According to these verses, Sulaiman a.s. asks for the throne of Queen of Sheba to be brought to him from a very distant land. And someone who had knowledge from the scripture says he can bring it in the blink of an eye. And immediately, the throne appears right before Sulaiman a.s. So the throne, which was in Yemen, somehow either becomes physically present or is seen as an image in Damascus, which is thousands of kilometers away. Additionally, they could see the people around the throne and hear their voices too. The Quran gives remarkable signs here. Despite being revealed 1400 years ago, it describes how objects or their images can be quickly transported or transmitted over long distances. And it does so through an actual historical event. And we see that today we can actually transmit images and sound through the internet and television in just a few seconds. Isn't this event in the Quran very similar to live broadcasts, images we get from projectors, cameras, or even modern holograms that we have nowadays? But how could something like this be mentioned in the Quran when it was completely unimaginable 1400 years ago? Once again, we see a clear proof that the Quran cannot be the word of a human being. In the Quran, we see that Sulaiman a.s. knew the language of animals and could communicate with them. In Surah An-Naml verse 18, it is mentioned that he understood the language of ants, and in verse 22, the language of birds. So, what kind of sign is given here? In fact, understanding the language of animals indicates that in the future, people might be able to understand how animals communicate and what they are capable of. After all, we know that Sulaiman a.s. knew their language, discovered their abilities, and used them in his work. And when you think about it, if we fully understand the capabilities of animals, we could give them tasks in many areas of daily life. This is actually something we have already started doing. Pigeons have been used for sending messages and letters. Parrots have been trained to talk. We have figured out how to use silkworms to make clothes. Similarly, we have, in a way, learned the language of dogs and used their strong sense of smell to fight narcotic crimes. Certain species of mice are also used in mine detection because of their highly sensitive noses. And we use dolphins' advanced sonar abilities in submarine search and rescue missions, as well as in finding sea mines. So, Sulaiman alayhi salam's miracle of understanding the language of animals and using them for certain tasks shows that we may discover even more of their abilities and find new ways to benefit from them in the future. There are thousands of animal species on Earth. As we learn to understand their languages and train them, what we can achieve together with them may go far beyond our imagination. Another miracle granted to Sulaiman alayhi salam was his ability to control the wind. By doing so, he could travel long distances in a very short time. In Surah Saba, Allah says, "And for Sulaiman we subjected the wind. Its journey in the morning was equal to the journey of 1 month, and its journey in the afternoon was equal to the journey of another month." This verse describes how a journey that would normally take a month could be completed in just a part of the day. Isn't this a clear hint at future technologies like airplanes? Think about it. Today, with new technologies, we calculate how to use the wind, combine the right materials, and build airplanes. And just like the sign in the verse, we now complete long journeys in a very short time. We can even be in more than one country on the same day. Journeys that once took a whole month now take just a few hours. Another miracle was that Ibrahim a.s. was thrown into the fire, yet it did not burn him. The tyrant ruler Nimrod became furious with him and ordered his men to prepare a massive fire. But when Ibrahim a.s. was thrown into the flames, something shocking happened. The fire did not harm him at all. Of course, this was a miracle that happened specifically for this great prophet. But at the same time, we can also see signs for the future in this miracle. In addition to Ibrahim a.s. not being burned by the fire, his clothes were not burned either. And once again, this gives humanity a goal. In the future, fire-resistant materials could be developed to protect people from flames. And in fact, by the mid-20th century, for the first time, flame-resistant clothing began to be produced, especially for firefighters. In the 1960s, special materials like Nomex and Kevlar were discovered. Nomex can withstand temperatures up to 370 degrees Celsius and has a higher resistance to catching fire, while Kevlar can endure heat up to 450 Celsius degrees. With these innovations, firefighters can now resist flames more effectively, and this helps them stay protected for several minutes during emergency rescue operations. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Musa a.s. strikes a rock with his staff, and suddenly 12 springs gush out. Just imagine, with a single touch of a staff, a dry, lifeless rock in the middle of a barren desert turns into a source of abundant water. 12 springs start flowing, and the people suffering from thirst finally drink from them. But what other messages were hidden in this miracle? It actually showed that extracting water from underground is possible. In other words, it seemed to point to the drilling technology that we use today. This method dates back to the 19th century, and since its discovery, drilling machines have allowed us to access underground water, oil, and other natural resources. So seeing water emerge from a rock at the strike of a staff has inspired people to imagine future technology. In the ayah, there was a sign of drilling machines long before they were invented. In Surah Al Imran, Isa a.s., also known as Jesus, says, "And I cure the born blind and the leper, and bring the dead back to life by the permission of Allah." These are some of the most well-known miracles of Isa a.s. Let's now take a closer look at one of them, healing those born blind. Today, with advancements like gene therapy and stem cell treatments, some forms of congenital blindness can actually be treated. Again, until the 20th century, leprosy had no cure, but today it can be treated with certain medications for a period of 6 months to 2 years. In fact, nowadays, except in certain regions, the number of leprosy cases has dropped to almost zero. Bediüzzaman explains that this verse gives the following message: even the most chronic diseases and severe health problems can have solutions. No matter what the illness is, a cure is possible. Keep searching, and you will find it. The last and most astonishing sign is in the miracle of Sulaiman a.s. bringing the jinn under his command and making them work for good. By Allah's will, Sulaiman a.s. made the jinns dive into the seas to bring out precious gems, build magnificent structures, and do all sorts of difficult tasks for him. Bediüzzaman says that there are many signs in these miracles and that the jinns could actually be controlled and become servants to humans in their work. But of course, this will not happen through things like fortune-telling, magic, or other practices that go against Islamic principles. He says it could be possible through some hidden secrets within the Qur'an. Of course, we still don't know how this could be achieved, but while this remains a mystery today, it may well become a reality in the future. At this point, you might be wondering, why didn't the Qur'an mention these things explicitly? It is because the Quran's main purpose isn't to give direct explanations about science or technology. After all, it is not a textbook on these subjects. The Quran's main topics are Tawheed, the oneness of God, the afterlife, prophethood, justice, and worship. But since technological discoveries are also blessings from Allah, and they have become such a big part of human life, the Quran doesn't completely ignore them either. So, as the All-Wise, Allah mentioned them through signs and hints. Also, there are two more important reasons for this. First, if technological inventions and scientific discoveries had been directly mentioned in the Quran so that it could address the last 1 or 2 centuries, people who lived in the previous 12 centuries wouldn't have fully understood it. Some might have even found it unrealistic, and that would go against the Quran's characteristic of being a universal book. I mean, think about it. Just 100 years ago, if you had told people that video calls would be possible, no one would believe you. That's why these discoveries are hinted at in the Quran through signs rather than being stated explicitly. If all technological and scientific discoveries were openly mentioned, wouldn't that contradict the whole idea of being tested? As we know, life is a test. And if everything was made obvious, there would be no room for disbelief. Everyone would believe. And that would take away the purpose of free will, because it would make it impossible to distinguish between sincere believers and those who only accept faith because they have no other choice. That is why these things are mentioned in a way that lets people reflect, search, and decide for themselves. Finally, the most important thing to understand from all this. All these signs in the Quran that inform us about the future give us a clear message. This cannot be the word of a human being. No person, on their own, could provide information that speaks to all people across all times and places. The words of an ordinary human cannot contain timeless wisdom and lessons for every society. These words can only belong to the Creator, who brought everything into existence from nothing, who is beyond time, and who knows everything. That is Allah. We may have discovered only a very small part of the miracles in the Quran, and as new discoveries are made, we may find even more hidden miracles within this timeless book. And when that happens, some people's faith will grow stronger, while others will keep making excuses to deny the truth.
फ्रेंड्स, काफ़ी हैरानी होती है ये बात सुन के कि 1400 साल पहले जो बातें कुरान में लिखी हुई थी, वो सभी एकदम से सच होती नज़र आएँ। और ये अल्लाह का करिश्मा है, ये जो सारी बातें जो लिखी है कुरान में, वो सभी जानने के बाद ना एकदम साइंटिस्ट भी हैरान हो चुके गाइस। तो जैसा कि काफ़ी सारे एग्ज़ाम्पल आए कि हज़रत इब्राहिम को भी आग में डाला गया तो वो बिल्कुल नहीं जले, कपड़े तक नहीं जले। तो अल्लाह का ये सब करिश्मा है गाइस। अल्लाह सब पे अपनी रहमत बनाए रखते हैं और कुरान में लिखी हुई हर बातें सच होती हैं। ये अल्लाह की तरफ से आई हुई किताब है जो कि हम सभी के लिए काफ़ी हेल्पफुल है और इसे पढ़ना चाहिए, समझना चाहिए, बहुत ज़रूरी है। सो गाइस, आप सभी को भी कैसा लगा ये वीडियो कमेंट बॉक्स में ज़रूर बताइएगा। और इस वीडियो को देखने के बाद आपको कैसा फ़ील हुआ, कौन सी बातें आपको बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छी लगी, तो आप कमेंट बॉक्स में ज़रूर बताइएगा गाइस। तो चलिए अब हम आप सभी से अलविदा लेते हैं, मिलेंगे आप सभी से और ख़ास वीडियो के साथ। अगर आप चाहते हैं कि मैं किसी और वीडियो पे रिएक्शन लेके आऊँ, सो गाइस आप कमेंट बॉक्स में बता सकते हैं कि मैं नेक्स्ट रिएक्शन वीडियो किस टॉपिक पे बनाऊँ, तो आप बता सकते हैं गाइस। और अगर फर्स्ट टाइम देख रहे हैं तो कमेंट करिए गाइस, और वीडियो को कर दीजिए एक लाइक, कमेंट कर दीजिए और सब्सक्राइब करना बिल्कुल ना भूलें, क्योंकि अगर आप फर्स्ट टाइम देख रहे हैं तो बेल आइकन भी प्रेस कर दीजिएगा गाइस। थैंक्स फॉर वाचिंग, बाय बाय फ्रेंड्स।